Well, I think I came from a broken home as well. As far as maybe love, we always had everything we needed. My parents divorced when I was probably about 8. But I was a daddy's girl, and I missed him so much. He left. They didn't have a good relationship, verbally or physically. And so I was around that. My brother was only about 2, so I don't think he remembers any of it. But I remember seeing things that I wish I hadn't. And then I remember my dad leaving, and he didn't come for over a year. I missed him so much. And one day, somebody at school said to me, it was early in the morning, we hadn't started class yet, it was recess, so everybody was still playing on the playground. And a friend came to me and said, "Your dad's in the parking lot." And we were entering class, and she said it in front of the teacher. I immediately ran out of the classroom without permission, and I remember running all the way to the parking lot and just clinging to his neck and just crying and crying because I missed him so much. So I think what I want to say to my kids is having a good male role model is so important, to have that good marriage so that both the parents can be present and instill whatever it is that they're going to in your kids. And I miss growing up with him. He was so kind and gentle. He was so generous. He would buy, I remember when my kids were little, Chris and Brianna, and he would always buy them popsicles. And he lived in Santa Ana, where it was kind of a low-income area. And all the kids would come running to see what popsicles they had. But more than half of them never had money to buy anything. He always bought all the kids popsicles. He was so generous. He would lend people money who owed him money and never expected it back. He helped me get my first apartment when I needed to leave a bad relationship with Chris and Brianna's dad. He helped me. I was stuck in that relationship because I had no money. I had nowhere to go. And he helped me. He did so many kind things. And I wish I would have given him more of me. I think those are the biggest regrets in life, not valuing relationships the way that we should. My mom, she always worked so hard. She was a housekeeper her whole life. She worked 6 days a week, as long as I can remember. So she would leave early in the morning and be home by about 5 or so. She wasn't happy when she came home. She was tired, had lots to do, but she always made dinner. She always kept a tidy house. She always washed our clothes. She overdid. She was an overdoer. To her last days, she was a great support to me. When I got sick, she would come, and she always came and cleaned my house and made dinner and watched my kids. I had great parents. Nobody's perfect, but I certainly had great parents who loved me and my brother. And I just thank them for that. My dad was very low-key. My mom was very active. They didn't seem to like the same things. He wanted a dog. I got a dog for a day, for 2 days. Then the dog was gone because she didn't want a dog. Things like that. He wanted a chicken coop. She didn't. Then the chickens were gone. And just things that could have been worked out so easily. But what can you do but to work on yourself in your own marriage? Like I said, I was a daddy's girl. My dad worked long hours too. He worked from 9 to 9 every day, 6 days a week, but on Saturday he would get off at 2. And often he would be home at 8. But he always played with me. He played a game of dice with me, or he would read to me at night. He made time for me, and I just always remember that. And when they got divorced, one day my mom called at school. They called me out of school into the office, and she was on the phone, and she said, "I need to know, who do you want to live with, me or your dad? And I need to know now." And I think I was like in 3rd grade. And I said, "I want to live with my dad." And she hung the phone up on me. And it broke my heart. And that's after he left for a year and I didn't see him. And that was really hard because I know she was going through a hard time. And not that I loved her less, but I think during that time you're just a kid, you know? And I did resent her for that, for doing that to me. He was happy and she was always mad. That's kind of what I remember. But as we got older, the relationship changed for the better. And then she was like my best friend, something I never imagined happening when I was a teenager. She became like my best friend. I wouldn't go a day without calling her. And so our love for each other grew. She changed. And I'm so happy that we got to experience that revolution in our relationship.
How did she change, or what caused her to change?
Well, I have to tell you that when I became a Christian, both of my parents were very disappointed because we were raised Catholic. And they thought, you know, this is, what's the word, when you're betraying your religion. And they were both very upset at me. But my mom started to see a change in me. And she slowly began to go to Christian church in Spanish. And she became a born-again Christian. And that changed her. But me becoming a Christian also, it gave me more patience when we spoke, because I used to get angry because she would say things and mean things. And so I would just be angry at her. She would say things like, "You're just like your dad," you know, and I knew she meant it in a bad way, but I would say, "Thank God." And I walked away. I remember walking away, and there were periods of time when we did not speak. But God changed all of that. When I became a Christian, He changed my heart towards her and the way I reacted towards her and how I spoke to her. That's huge. That was everything. I don't know that our relationship would have changed if I had not become a Christian. Like I said, we fought a lot when I was a teenager, to the point of physical fighting, because she was a physical person, the way she was with my dad. She was with my brother and I. And as I got older, I would try to defend myself. So it was not a pretty thing. And when she was here towards the end, she said to me, she said, you know, you're my everything. She goes, you're like my mom. She goes, you're my daughter. She goes, you're my best friend. And those are words that I never would have ever expected to hear, thinking back on that volatile relationship that we had. So I just thank God, because it's only because of God that He brought us to that point. And so her heart completely was changed, as was mine.
Praise God.
Praise God.